Welcome to the Piston Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. Well, thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe. We just got done with a heartbreaking loss last night to the Houston Rockets, 112 to 110. And with 6.6 seconds left, we called timeout, down by 2, run up a play, get the ball to Ivey. He's going toward the basket, and then they back off him, so he pulls up and shoots the 3. And he's been struggling from the 3, but it banked off the backboard. It went in the basket. It cupped around the rim. It went halfway down the hole, popped out. Duran gets both hands on the ball for an easy putback, but the ball escapes his hands and he fumbles it, and then we lose it and we lose the game. And it's just like so typical what can happen to this team. They fought hard. They played really well for the most part. It was a thrilling game to be at. I mean, with 4 minutes left, a little over 4 minutes left, Ivey drives it right through the traffic with everybody surrounding him, and he just hammers it one-handed, and he hangs on it, the rim by one hand, and it was really cool. And then another time Ivey penetrates to the basket, and then late in the game, and he dishes it to Duran, and Duran monster dunk, and it was so cool. A lot of great plays in the game. But then we come down, and then Fred VanVleet, their veteran player, knocks down a 3 and then a 2, and we made some turnovers. One time we drove in, got the ball to Duran. He fumbles it. It was a bounce pass. It wasn't a bad pass, but sometimes he has such strong hands, and he's such a great rebounder. He's one of the best rebounders in the league, and it just surprises me. Sometimes he gets his two hands on a rebound, and he loses it. But anyway, the big story for me was, we played without Bogey. His calf's hurting him, so that's why he missed so much in the season. So I hope that isn't a long-term thing. Again, we either want him to play for us or we want to trade him. We don't want him injured, no matter what. And then Cade didn't play, so it's another game without Cade, and it's the best that we looked. And I critical of Monty, and I'm going to be critical of him again tonight, but he did a little bit better job on the rotation. We're going to get into that. He did a little bit better job picking the starters and divvying up the minutes, but things still need to get better. But here's the story. Thursday, there was a big organizational meeting. Monty was asked about why he hasn't played Ivey at the point. And he said there's a big organizational meeting on Thursday, and one of the things that was pointed out to Williams was Ivey as the lead ball handler. It hasn't happened much. Well, if you've been listening to my podcast, I have been begging for two things, lots of things, but one of the things I've been begging for is for Cade and Ivey to be staggered. So one of them had the ball in their hands all the time. So if Cade was, if they played together, they can play together. And when they play together, I want Ivey to have the ball part of the time. I would say I want Cade to have the ball more than Ivey for sure, but I would want Ivey to have the ball some of the time when Cade. So if Ivey has the ball and he's penetrating, and then he's got Cade and Bogey to dish it to on the wings, or even Knox, or even Stu, and then Duran in the dunker spot, things can happen. Things can happen good. So, but, I've been saying this. I said this before the season, that they need to stagger them, and they never staggered. They're always on the court at the same time, and Cade plays more than Ivey by a significant amount. But there's very few times. There's never a time when Ivey got to be on the court without Cade where he got to handle the ball. Because even when Cade and Bogey and Ivey play together, so often Ivey goes long stretches without touching the ball. And he's not a perfect player. He hasn't, he's really been struggling on his three-point shot. And again, it's just his form. I was hoping to get to talk to him, and yell out to him to extend his arm and hold his follow through, because that's where the problem is. But so he hits that shot, and we win the game if he hit that three-pointer with, when it's right near the buzzer. But it was a crushing defeat for us, but the guys played really hard. But anyway, so like I said, I've been talking about Ivey getting to be the main ball handler, and he never gets a chance to. Killian always has the ball, or Cade always has the ball, and Ivey has been spending a lot of time in the corner, and he steps out of bounds when he's in the corner, so we don't want him in the corner. But anyway, here's what Monty said. He says, "I have to eat it. I wish I did it earlier." Well, you've been watching him 39 games. You had preseason with them, and you haven't figured out. But my biggest thing is, did Monty ever take the time to watch last year's tape? The games from last year. Ivey handled the ball. Ivey was our point guard the last month and a half, and he was sensational. He shot high percentage. He had at least averaged over 6 assists a game, and his turnovers weren't bad, and so he did it. So now Monty's saying, if I give him a small package to be utilized as the lead ball handler, I think he can grow into that environment. Well, Monty, it's on tape. It was that last year, and then so last night this happens. He says, I fell into it tonight and kind of kicked myself for not doing it earlier, because Ivey had a long stretch where he was out for a while. He said a long stretch and out for a while. Well, he kept him out for a long time. So Monty says stuff about, he had the meeting before about, playing Ivey at the point some. But here we play this game, playing Houston. They have a good team. They have a winning record. Ivey's out there for the first 7 minutes, and then he sits him down. And then Ivey does not get in until there's 5 minutes left in the second quarter. So Killian starts the game, plays, doesn't get subbed out when Ivey gets subbed out, way after Ivey gets subbed out, and he gets subbed in way before Ivey gets subbed back in. And, Monty said, I kind of kicked myself for not doing it earlier. We've all been wanting it. All you guys, all my listeners have been wanting it, And by the way, one of the coolest things in the world happened at that game. I'm out in the concourse talking to an AAU coach that I coach against, and he was talking about how he used to coach Fred Van Fleet, and he's coached Fred for years when he was younger. And now Fred donates money to his AAU program, and what a great guy Fred is. And then while I'm out there talking to him, Gabe, one of my listeners, longtime listeners, and that always is really good in the comments, Gabe just happens to be walking by and sees me. So then I had good seats, but there were a lot of people not there because it was a terrible storm. So I'm driving down there. There's a terrible storm, but then my grandson went with me, and we slide over to some better seats, and I'm sitting there right in front of this guy, and all of a sudden, for whatever, he turns to me and he recognizes me from the podcast. So Jerome Garrett, he was from up north, but he lives downstate now. But it was really cool. We had a lot of great conversations during the game about what was going on. And then these guys sitting behind me, they were hockey players. And Ryan, shout out to Ryan. He had his birthday yesterday, and he turned 30. But those guys, they were cheering for Houston, but they were still nice. They got these T-shirts. I got one T-shirt, and then they gave one to my grandson. So that was really cool of those guys. And we got to talk a little about basketball, but they were really cool guys. And they said they were going to watch the podcast. So if you're watching, Ryan and your friends, thank you. It was nice to meet you. But anyway, back again to Monty. He says he kind of fell into it, and he should have done it earlier, but he had that long stretch, and then he plays him at the point, and how can that not have been thought of before? How can I've been mentioning in all my podcasts, and Monty doesn't listen to my podcasts, but I said it before the season started that they need to stagger them and play them and let Ivey play on the ball some. So anyway, that was interesting, and then Killian still played more minutes than Ivey, but. It was bobblehead night. So Houston and Detroit both had bobblehead nights for Asar and Amen. They got everybody that came in they gave away at least $5,000 in Houston when Detroit played them in Houston, and they gave them away last night at Little Caesars, and they're pretty cool bobbleheads. Oh, there they are. And it was cool. They got to play against each other. They guarded each other for parts of the game, but they were great. And especially Asar was great. And Amen kind of played better at Houston, but Asar certainly played better last night. But Asar, their middle name is the letters X, L, N, C. Both of them have the same middle name, and it's for excellence. That their parents worked them really hard when they were kids, and they were 7 years old, and they were running like 2 miles a day and doing 100 push-ups, and I don't know what all they did, but they really worked on their dribbling all the time and their ball skills. So that was really cool to watch them play. But Asar was brilliant, and he just needs to play more. Have you heard that on this podcast? He played not enough minutes. He played 18 minutes in partway. They had Stu coming in for him, and he got to play some extra minutes because there was not a dead ball to get Stu back in the game. So he got to play. He was only going to play like 16 minutes, but he got 2 extra minutes because there was not a dead ball. But he had 18 minutes, 8 rebounds. He was 2 for 3 shooting. The only shot he missed was a 3. And again, my opinion is he needs to get better at his shooting his threes before he shoots them. Keep shooting them in the NBA games when we're trying to win. But, I mean, some people might differ for that. But he has, so at halftime, well, first, before the game, Stu, this is his first game back. He's been gone for weeks. But Stu was out there and before the game, and his shot looked amazing. Way better. Even, I mean, it's been not bad. His shot's not bad. It's just that he's not a willing shooter. He doesn't see himself as a shooter, so he doesn't hardly shoot. And he passes up open shots, but last night he didn't pass open shots. But he looked way more aggressive shooting the ball during the game. And late in the game, he missed one. And every play, obviously, every possession is huge. And we were down by 5. We get the ball. He had just missed one a little bit before that, and then Stu nails one. And it was a huge basket. But Stu played really well last night. But so they're out there shooting at halftime, warming up for the second half, and Asar's right down in the corner right by me. And he gets his left hand all the way back behind the ball instead of putting it up on the side of the ball. His hand's back here. I've never seen a good shooter that shoots with their left hand behind the ball. And obviously somebody's had to teach him that. He's out there. He's in the corner. I watch him other games. He gets there early. He spends lots of time practicing the corner 3 because that's where Monty pushes him. But last night, they ran some pick and rolls with him, and they did that earlier in the season, and it worked. He got a dunk last night doing it, but it makes it so his man can't just sag and help. So it's effective. But hopefully we can do it more going forward. But anyway, so they're out there shooting. I'm trying to yell to Asar, get your left hand on the side of the ball, which I'm a fool. I'm sure he's probably not going to listen to me anyway. But there's like 3 or 4 rows of seats in the front right down by the court between me and where he was. And so he didn't hear me. And then Stu's walking over there towards him to shoot probably some corner threes. And then Stu's listening. He said, what? He can't hear me either because it's too noisy in there. And then Stu passes me the ball. And then I just pass it back to him. But I try to tell him tell Asar to get his left hand up on the side of the ball. So anyway, that's just a story that you get from going down to the game. So it was a lot of fun. But I just want to see those guys playing. And another big thing, my starting lineup I wanted is Cade, Ivey, Asar, Bogey, and Duren. And then you can even switch Stu and Asar if you need to, but whichever one of them don't start, they need to play, a lot of minutes. And so Stu's on and off numbers are the highest on the team, and our defense has been way worse since he was injured. So, and some of those are coincidence, and some of those, and there's certainly things that Stu isn't great at, but with the team that we have right now, he's definitely one of our 7 best players, and so he needs to be on the court. But how many minutes have those guys played together? Cade, Ivey, Asar, Bogey, and Duren. How many? Or even Cade, Ivey, Asar, Stu, and Duren. How many minutes have those guys played? I just want to see those. I want to see those guys play together. I want to see those guys play together a lot of minutes and see what happens. But we don't even get a chance to. But what is the heck? Monty, he says these things, and so he's saying this about letting Ivey have the ball more, but he said things before, and he's never followed through with them. He says them, and then he just doesn't. Maybe he'll do it for a minute, and then he just goes back to being Monty. And again, he says, he made a comment I read somewhere where he said Kevin Knox definitely deserves to be an NBA player and a rotation player or whatever he said. And he said, and there's no reason that somebody that's as good as him should have been not having a job in the NBA because he played great. But Monty Williams, he played that game where we beat Toronto and we broke the streak, and then he played the next game, and then you start Livers for like 5 games in a row. So now Livers isn't starting so many games. It's not starting. He's also reduced Livers' minutes. But my contention still is, instead of playing Asar only 18 minutes, which, again, he got some bonus minutes tonight, and usually he doesn't even get to play 18 minutes, give him the minutes that you're giving to Livers. So I don't know. It's just real frustrating that Asar. I mean, these guys, those hockey players, Ryan and his buddies, who were sitting behind me, and they don't even know the players. I don't know why they're at the game. They're just hanging out for Ryan's birthday party. I don't know. But anyway, there was a time when Asar went and got a rebound, and his whole body and his chest were like above all these players down on the court, and he was so high up to get the rebound, and it just blew them away. So anyway, he was so good last night. You know, you play 18 minutes and you're 2 for 3 and you get 8 rebounds and you get steals and blocks. And why doesn't he play? And he's going to make mistakes. But you put him in, some pick and roll situations. You don't just sit him in the corner the whole time, but just see what happens again. Let him run the floor. He was playing with energy. He was getting rebounds. I mean, 8 rebounds in 18 minutes. That's insane. So anyway, and then my subs off the bench, I would play Stu, Knox, Sasser, and Bagley. And so that's a 9-man rotation, and you're going to stagger people, not just one starter in the game at a time, but 2 starters on the floor at a time, but then those 9 players, and see what happens. And I mean, if one of them starts not playing well, then let somebody else play a little bit. Oh, anyway, I made a huge mistake. I left out Burks, so Burks has to play. Burks has just been cooking lately, so it's funny that that Darko Rajokovic, that as the Raptors coach, I heard somebody on a podcast say that that's the kind of coach, an former NBA player, saying that's the kind of coach I want to play for. He lets his players know he's got their back. He got fined $25 million. That was really a low number for what I thought he was going to get fined. I thought he'd get fined a little bit more. But anyway, Kevin Knox, like I said, he was really great last night. 35 minutes, 7 for 9, 2 for 4 on threes, 3 for 3 from the line. He attacked the basket. He got some dunks. He drove the ball hard. 7 rebounds, which he doesn't always do. He doesn't always shoot great from 3, but he was really hot last night, and it made a big difference. And he's clearly better than Livers. 2 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks, 19 points. I mean, that's a big-time game. So, Stu, 29 minutes, and he's just coming back. He hasn't played in a long time, and I know that was a little bit challenging for him, but he was 6 for 13, but he was looking to shoot the ball. He was looking to shoot the 3. He's hesitant even under the basket. Throughout his career, he shot really poorly for a center down by the basket. His around the rim percentage has been low, but he was forceful, and of course the Rockets don't really have a shot blocker, so that was an advantage. And Şengün is big, but he's not that tall and he can't jump that high. But anyway, so 6 for 13, 3 for 8 on threes, including that one big one down in the last couple minutes. 1 for 2 on free throws. He shot one a little bit short. 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 turnovers, too many, but he had 16 points. So. Jaden Ivey, 28 minutes. Like I said, he played the first 7 minutes, and then he sat him, and then he got his 3rd foul. Well, he ended up the game with 3 fouls, but he sat a long time. Monty even acknowledged and knew that I sat him for a long time, and then I decided I was going to use him as finally put him back in the game, and I'm going to let him play point. And until the end, we got careless with the ball. We did what we usually do. We just turned it over. Ivey had some turnovers, I think, and like I said, Duran dropped a ball in his hands. It was a bounce pass, so that's not always easy. He was going to have a dunk, but he fumbled it. But anyway, Ivey, 8 for 19, but only 1 for 6 on 3. So his 3-point shot has been killing him. His form is off, and his shot is off, and his confidence is off. So he's got to get that figured out. And then the same thing impacting. I mean, he's at 80%. He was at 80% free throw shooter for over half the season, and 1 for 4 tonight. And free throws were a huge factor in this game. Our lack of shooting them well. But he had 7 rebounds, 5 offensive rebounds. He's one of the littler guys. I mean, he's not obviously as little as Sasser, but he's 6'4", and there's most of those guys. Fred VanVleet's not as tall as he is, but most of everybody always in the league is taller, and he gets these offensive rebounds. He just goes up there, and it's like he's jumping off a trampoline, and he goes so hard after it. But 5 offensive rebounds, 8 rebounds. He had a block, 3 turnovers, 18 points, and he was +7, and Duran was +9. So those were the two highest plus minus. Again, that's not always accurate. Because Stu was minus 10, Knox was minus 1, Killian was minus 7, Bagley minus 2. But the other guy that was plus, Sawyer Thompson, plus 5 in his 18 minutes. So Duran played 32 minutes. He was 7 for 12, and he, they called a charge on him against Sangoon, and Sangoon was so aggressive. He was playing bully ball. He took the ball right at us, man. He was 12 for 19, 29 points. People are saying he's an all-star. He can dunk, he can get up, but he's not a great leaper, but he's strong and forceful. And we did steal it from him sometimes where he forced it, but he just lowers his shoulder and bangs right into guys, and that's how and then he shoots his little jump hooks, and that's how he scored. But Duran took it at him quite a few times, but Duran was 7 for 12. He's looking to attack off the dribble more. He was 1 for 2 on free throws, 8 rebounds, which is, I don't remember the last time when he didn't get double digits in rebounds, but 3 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, 2 turnovers, 15 points. So he had another good game. And again, he fumbled the ball. And like I said, sometimes he fumbles offensive rebounds when he gets his hands on it. And it's kind of weird because sometimes his hands seem so strong. Killian Hayes, all of you guys, most all of you feel the same way as I do. And when is it and how does it keep on happening? And 29 minutes, 2 for 6, 0 for 2 on threes. And then he has the gumption. He's not shooting free throws good. He's missed every technical he shot, and he steps to the line to shoot the technical last night, and he made it. So that was one of his 5 points. He had 4 rebounds, 8 assists, which he is a good passer, but you just can't afford to have a guy play as many minutes as he does that can't score. And it's 2 for 6 and 0 for 2, and it's consistently every night. It's not like he's up and down, but he was minus 7. So Bagley, where have you been, Marvin Bagley? He did his normal Marvin Bagley, only 12 minutes. What does he do? 4 for 6, 3 for 4 on free throws, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal, 11 points. 11 points in 12 minutes, and on only 6 shots. And so, I mean, he's not a great defensive player, but, he can play and he can score the ball, and it's not a fluke when he does it. He can do it, and he's consistent. So Livers got to play 16 minutes. He did his typical thing, 1 for 4. He's 1 for 4 on threes, and I keep saying he's a better shooter than that, but he never proves that. He shot better last game, but 1 assist and 3 points and minus 3. I already did a SARS, but Burks, he's flamethrower, that dude. 30 minutes, 7 for 14, shooting 5 for 9 on threes. Man, if some team needs shooting, they better get that guy and give us a first-round pick. But he had, his contract's up at the end of the year, and he's at least 32. He had 1 assist and 2 blocks, 2 turnovers, 19 points, but he was minus 11. So a lot of that sometimes depends on who you're playing with. Sasser, and I know a lot of you want Sasser to play more, and I don't know what we have to lose to play him a little bit more. 11 minutes. He was 0 for 2, 0 for 1 on threes, and he's a legitimate 3-point shooter. And Ivey's had 4 years. Not Ivey. Killian's had 4 years to show that he can't shoot the 3. 4 years. And Sasser has shown that he can do it, and he did it in college. Coming into the draft, Killian, we knew that was one of the things. He's not a shooter. So, but the big thing is 11 minutes. He had 7 assists. 7 assists in 11 minutes and only 1 turnover. So that was good. But we shot 50%. They shot 46%. So we shot better than they did. We shot 34%, and they shot 27% on threes. But where we lost it, we were 10 for 16, and they were 22 for 25 on free throws. So they outscored us by 12. And you lose a game, and shoot that bad of a percentage on free throws, that's really hard to swallow. So Fred VanVleet, though, he was impressive. The dude he was the least athletic player on the court last night. And he was also the highest paid player on the court by double. I'm sure he makes double what the next closest player on the court makes. And he deserves it, man. 20 points, 12 in the fourth quarter, and like 5 down the stretch that were big baskets, 12 assists. How many turnovers do you think he had? 0. And so that's a point guard. They're paying him over $40 million a year, so that's max money. Jalen Green, who was drafted right after Cade, he had 28 points. He looks incredible, but he was 9 for 25. His shooting percentage, and actually Van Fleet's shooting percentage is only around 40, and Green's is only about 40, and his three-point percentage is only about 30. But he gets lots of shots up, so he had 28 points. Yeah, it was cool though. Segun was, I don't like him, but he at the game a kid was there and he had a sign up with his name on it, and like he was my favorite player. And before the game, they were warming up, and he stood down there holding up his sign. And Segun came over and got pictures with the kids, autographed his sign, and it was really nice to see, when NBA players treat people like that. So anyway, I had a blast at the game. I had a blast meeting some of our listeners, and I hope sometimes it'll happen again in the future with some other listeners. But I do appreciate me. It's really cool for me to feel like, this is like a community. That even there's like a connection, even though it's just through the screen. But it's really been a lot of fun. Please again subscribe and like. Big thing tomorrow night. Go Lions, and it's pretty exciting. Sam Laporta. I thought he was done for the year, and it looks like Sam Laporta is going to get to play. But that's maybe wishful thinking. Maybe he'll be limited how good he can play. But it's going to be a tough game. The Rams are good. They got Matthew Stafford, and they've been on a roll lately. So hopefully our Lions can do it. But again, we got to win the game. Monday we play on Martin Luther King Day. We play against the Wizards, and that's certainly a beatable team. But thank you for listening. Be the reason that somebody feels cared for and loved, and go Pistons.